All right, we're going to get started in just a little bit. And let me invite any of the moderators that are in the live stream this morning, if you would be able to jump over to Facebook to the Cow Country page and find the 3 posts that show all the photos of the steps I took Sibel's machine through out of Brooklyn, New York, and post those links in the live chat so that folks can see the progress steps that this machine was taken through. I would appreciate it. All right, back to some music. We'll start in a little bit. All right, I'm going to get things rolling here. I don't know what that last part of the music was. I thought this was all ragtime. I was going to do some ragtime this morning, and then it jumped into something weird. So, but anyway, great to have everybody here on a Tuesday morning. I know the week is busy, and when you take time to join us, whether it's from within the U.S. or our good friend that's over in Poland, that has used a number of our resources to get his Swedish Beauty working again, to get the Swedish Beauty working again. It's a great place to join. It's a great place to come together. And we're coming together with a great victory today. Susie and I don't celebrate Halloween. It's just not our thing. But it's kind of cool when you can take a machine that's kind of a Frankenstein project, and you can take it from being, as I said in the title, you can take it from being trash to being a treasure. And that's the reality when you're buying a machine, whether you're going on Facebook Marketplace or whether you're going on eBay or Etsy or Pinterest or any of those other sites that market sewing machines. You never really know what you're getting. It's kind of a Forrest Gump thing where, you never know what you're going to get in a box of chocolates. And Sibel purchased her 404, as I recall, from eBay. And the person that was selling it painted a pretty nice picture of the condition of the machine. Well, as you can see right now on camera, the machine had a lot of issues. I basically had to take that machine partially apart and marry the good parts with one of the Singer 404s that was in my personal collection, and give Sibel a machine that is worthy of her and is going to do the job. A machine that's going to serve her faithfully out in Brooklyn, New York, a machine that's going to get the job done and get the job done well. And I'm hoping today we can demonstrate that final product in this live stream of a Singer 404 that really, 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 really gets the job done. Now, any of you that are joining us right now and have any knowledge on the Slant-O-Matic series that was introduced by Singer, feel free to share that knowledge in the live chat. Share anything you want to share in the live chat about the Slant-O-Matic series. Why did Singer come out with it? What's it all about? What makes the Slant-O-Matics different from a standard Singer sewing machine? What makes them unique? And that way others that watch this later as a video will be able to learn from your knowledge. I say it all the time. Sometimes a teacher, always a student. So you have an opportunity to step in out of the shadows and share your knowledge as a teacher, a fellow teacher, and give that knowledge to others that are going to gain from it. Very much like our friend from Poland, that through the 1,000+ videos on this channel was able to get their Swedish beauty back to a working state again. How exciting is that, to take a machine that is not able to get the job done and to get it back into service again? That's really what this channel is all about, is returning that greatness, the greatness factor to those machines that otherwise would be forgotten. So I don't do this consistently enough. I probably should, but I'm going to ring the bell to start the beginning of the class. And we're going to jump into this pretty quick. I'll see if I can readjust the camera. And any of you that are brand new to this channel and saying, well, who is this little guy here that Scott put by this machine that Sibel got from eBay? That is none other than the Singer repair guy. The thing you'll learn from this channel is I've got a lot of helpers in this workshop and in the previous workshops that will go to work in the middle of the night when the rest of us are sleeping. They'll come out and they'll help me with the various tasks that I have with all these machines that are sent to us from around the world. So I'm excited for all of our helpers, and especially the Singer repair guy, because he knows Singers inside and out, just like me. He works on them, he tinkers on them, and he brings greatness back to them again. So any of you that have never met him before, the Singer repair guy. Yeah! I feel like we should have like a little audio track that gives applause or something like that. You know, some clapping for these wonderful helpers that I have in the workshop. All right. So I'm going to give you a serial number. I'm going to give you all a serial number. And I want you to please look the serial number up. If you're not sure how to do that, ask someone else in the live stream. Well, where do I look up serial numbers for Singer sewing machines? Where do I go? Where do I go? Where do I go? Well, they'll tell you. And when you get to the Singer, it's actually the ISMAX International website. The ISMAX International website, you're going to find all kinds of different series broken out by letters and numbers. You're going to be looking for the following serial number so you can help me further know and help others further know what year Sibel's machine is that's going to be heading back to Brooklyn, New York in the next week. So the serial number is, and if someone wants to type it into the live chat as well, that would be really cool. It is A like Apple, M like Mary. So AM 925756. So A like Apple, M like Mary, 925756. And when you're able to find it on the ISMAX International website, what you're going to find is the year it was made, which I've already told you in the title. This was actually a Pioneer Slant-O-Matic 404. It was one of the very first in the series, which makes this machine incredibly rare. Whenever you get a first edition, in other words, when Singer is introducing a brand new model, they're introducing a brand new model and they roll those machines out. If you get one of those first machines, pat yourself on the back. And that's what I was able to do for Sibel. The machine that she got from eBay was not a first edition, but the machine that I pulled from my personal collection and added those parts from the Frankenstein machine from eBay. We made it then a first edition model, which is really, really, really cool. So look that up if you would. And if someone, it looks like Susie already, thank you, Susie. Susie already typed the serial number in the live chat. Let us know what we have here. We know it's a first edition. We know it was born in 1958, but what was the month and the day? And how big of a production group was that first edition series? How many machines did they make? So type all that in the live chat, and that way others later will go, oh, okay, cool. So let me put on a little bit more music, and I'm going to readjust the camera, and we're going to get rolling with Sibel's first edition collector series. It's kind of almost like a Ginsu commercial here, isn't it? It's kind of like a Ginsu commercial. Call us now. Operators are waiting. But no, it's really a neat occasion today to be able to celebrate the rebirth of this 1958 Singer 404. And some smart person in the classroom is going to share all the other details, the month, the day, the production size, blah, 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 blah. Let's roll some music. All right, let me pause the music here. So this is the final fruits of many weeks of labor in taking parts off of Sibel's machine that was purchased on eBay. You saw that in the opening shot over there in pieces, and taking that machine and making it into a finished product of this first edition Singer 404. And the Slant-O-Matics were really a neat series machine. And I don't see that the answer has been posted yet in the live chat. Oh, somebody just got it. I think it was Susie that just got it. So yeah, this machine we're looking at right now almost got a blood transfusion from the machine that Sibel got on eBay. Certain parts were better on that kind of a trashy machine from eBay that this seller misrepresented what Sibel was buying. Shame on them. And that's the reality with eBay or Etsy or Pinterest or any of those things. You've got some very, very great machines out there, and you've got some other not so great machines. And sellers will sometimes paint a pretty picture. And then when the buyer gets the machine, all of a sudden it was like, whoa, this is not even the same machine. But this machine really went through a metamorphosis and benefited from some of the good parts on the other machine. And then it just became a great machine again. And the Slant-O-Matic series, if folks don't know it, the Slant-O-Matic series had a number of machines that preceded the 404. And the 404 is a straight stitch only machine, if you didn't know that. So the machine that we're going to be using today was really the specialty straight stitch machine that Singer came up with in the Slant-O-Matic series. And the first Slant-O-Matic, if anyone remembers a previous class, was none other than the 301, the Singer 301, which I sometimes refer to as the big sister to the featherweight, because it's got a tilt bed on the end of it over here out of view. So over here on the 301, it would have a tilt bed like the featherweight, but it's quite a bit bigger. It's quite a bit bigger than the featherweight sewing machine that everyone seems to covet. Everyone that is into vintage sewing machines at one point or another is going to say publicly or privately, I want to get featherweight. I want to get a featherweight. And it's because the featherweight was such an iconic introduction at the World's Fair back in the 1930s in Chicago, Illinois. It was the time of innovation. It was a time where all the newest products, the innovative products that were being introduced in the 1930s were rolling out, and they wanted to be shown at the Chicago World's Fair. Well, one of those items was none other than the Singer featherweight. And so a lot of folks will get that featherweight and they're like, I really love my featherweight, but then they'll say, but I want more workspace. I want a bigger motor. The 0.4 amps on the featherweight just isn't quite enough for the projects. The harp space just isn't quite big enough. And they'll say, is there anything like a featherweight? And then we ring the bell and we say, yes, by chance there is. It's the Singer 301A that came out of Anderson, South Carolina. And before it, the Singer 301 that came out of Elizabethport, New Jersey. And they were introduced back in 1951. So 1951 was really the revolutionary beginning of the Slant-O-Matic series, with the Singer 301 out of Elizabethport, New Jersey, the Singer 301A a little bit later that came out of Anderson, South Carolina. And then following that was none other than the 401A. And if you look over on the other side of the workbench, you can just barely see it. It's over here. Am I pointing in the right direction? I'm trying to see. Oh, there it is. There it is. So this machine over here, the 401A, was introduced in 1956. So we started out with a 301, 1951. We came out with a 301A right around 1953. And then we moved in about 3 years later to the 401A. And the 401A is really a revolutionary machine, because not only can it sew straight and zigzag, but it's got a bazillion built-in cam stitches as well. And this particular one belongs to Beth Thompson. All these folks that have hyphenated names, they always throw me off. When Susie and I got married last year, she didn't say, well, I want to be Susie Geller hyphen blah, 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 blah. She's just like, I'm going to be Susie Geller now, which is cool. And I feel incredibly blessed to have Susie Geller as my wife. Yes, I'm going to say it live on the live stream. I'm very, very blessed. But this machine over here that came out of Louisiana, I believe. Let me double check. Is it out of Louisiana? Yes, it's out of Louisiana. I had to double check. So this 401A that came out of Louisiana, I think it's one of the first machines we had come out of Louisiana, was first introduced in 1956, the 401A, and it was produced until 1961. So if anyone wants to capture this and type it into the live chat, that would be really cool. So we start with a 301 out of Elizabethport, New Jersey. It's introduced in 1951. We then move into the 301A when production of that machine started down in Anderson, South Carolina. That was right around 1953. In 1956, we have the 401A, the one that you see in the shot right now, out of Louisiana, that belongs to Beth Thompson Moore out of Louisiana. And that machine is produced until 1961. So the 401A is made from 1956 to 1961. And then we have another series come out. I'm going to go back to Sibel's machine again, because that's really our feature story today. So then the next machine that comes out in the Slant-O-Matic series is the 403A. That's introduced in 1958 and produced until 1960. We then have finally the 404, which is introduced in 1958, like Sibel's machine here, one of the very first ones to roll off of the production line, 1958, and it's produced until 1963. We then have the 500A, which comes out in 1961 and is produced until 1963. At the very same time, we have the Rocketeer introduced, the 503A. And I know people debate this. Is the 500A the real Rocketeer, or is the 503A the real Rocketeer? Well, we can have that discussion another time. But I'm going to call both of those machines that were introduced in 1961 and produced until 1963, which ended the Slant-O-Matic series in 1963. Just a year before I was born, they said, we're going to stop the Slant-O-Matics because that little guy is going to be born and we need to focus on him. He's going to be really, really needy, the future wizard of Kentucky. So 1961 to 1963, we've got the 500A, we've got the 503A rolling down the production line. And those machines were revolutionary as well for their own reasons. So at any rate, that's a quick history, a quick little history on the Slant-O-Matic series that began in 1951 and ended in 1963. All right? So now you're smarter if you didn't know all that. And that's the big deal about the Slant-O-Matic series, is they had a number of revolutionary things. We've always talked about dropping the feed dogs, right? We're always going to drop the feed dogs if we're going to do free motion quilting or freehand embroidery. Well, starting in 1951, Singer said, nope, you're not going to drop the feed dogs anymore. You're going to raise the throat plate. And if you've never seen this done before, this is our control for raising the throat plate right here. I'm going to see if I can get both things in the shot at the same time. There we go. You push it to the side if you want to reduce, and then you push it all the way up if you want to remove the throat plate itself. But normally it's going to be locked down in the down position so that you can do all the sewing that we're going to be doing today. And these little points right here, these little plungers, need periodic service. And if you've got a little needle like this or another irrigation tool that's got a real fine point, you'll open up this and you'll take this off, the throat plate cover, and you'll put a couple drops of oil on these little plungers that go up and down because they tend to get a little sticky. So I would recommend that probably whenever you need it. I usually give a time period. I'll just say that it really depends on your sewing environment, how dry it is, and other factors that will impact when they start to get sticky. Because it's gonna be an ongoing service you'll have to do. That's the only downfall of this setup that Singer came up with raising the throat plate. The other thing I'll show you real quick is we've got a bobbin in there, and there's different versions of this that are being made aftermarket. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. So if you buy some bobbin replacements for your slant-o-matic machine and you all of a sudden have issues, it's probably because they did not manufacture it to the original specs. They can be just a thousandth of a millimeter off, and it will throw off the spin of that bobbin in the raceway area. And I can hear Hank is barking because the garbage people have made it up the mountain and they're collecting all the trash. They're at our location right now. And Hank doesn't like that. He doesn't like UPS guys. He doesn't like FedEx guys. And he sure as heck doesn't like the garbage guys or garbage people. But I'm grateful for them. They make quite a journey up our mountain to collect our trash every week. And we're very grateful for them. We've done little things to say thanks to them before. So, at any rate, be careful about the bobbins that you get. Some of them, after series, they do a pretty decent job. Other ones are not so great. Does anyone know what class bobbin that is in Sibel's Singer 404? Does anyone know what bobbin that is? What bobbin does the Slant-O-Matic series take? Not only the 404, but all the other machines in that series as well. Does anyone know what bobbin that is? What bobbin does the Slant-O-Matic series take? What class bobbin is that? You can kind of see it in the shot. Some of these had 2 holes. The earliest versions of this bobbin had 2 holes. Others had 4 holes. Yeah, absolutely right. It is a class 66. So whoever that is, I don't recognize the name, but whoever that is, I'm going to give them a bell ring for a correct answer and for coming out of the shadows and sharing their knowledge with us. It is a class 66 bobbin, and there are some that work really well and some that work not so well. The ones that don't work quite as well, I'll show you a difference between these two. It's a very subtle difference. This is going to be, let me see if I've got them correct. Yep. This is going to be an original Singer Class 66 bobbin. I'm going to put my hand behind there so it kind of focuses on it. Take my glasses off. There we go. So this is an original Class 66 bobbin. Original Class 66. It's going to be beveled or rounded on top. You can kind of see that in the shot. And then on the bottom, it's going to have a little ridge raise right here on the bottom. You can kind of see that from the edge. See how there's a little ridge raise in the center? That's actually a balancing engineering design on the bobbin that allows it to turn more evenly without a wobble. It's got that little raised edge in the middle. And that's what you're going to want to look for when you're getting bobbins. That it has that little raised edge in the middle, and that's going to go down when you put it into the machine. It's going to go down. The other aftermarket ones have either a flat surface or they've got a double bevel. So here you can see this one here is aftermarket. Looks almost identical, doesn't it? It's got a bevel top. And when we turn it over, it's got a bevel bottom. And instead of having that little raised balancing point in the middle, it's recessed and it's flat. And when you run this bobbin in a Slant-O-Matic machine or any of the other Singer machines that take a Class 66 bobbin, because it doesn't have that raised center point to balance the bobbin, it's going to do a little bit of this when it's a little bit of this when it's running in the machine, which can cause issues as far as thread feed coming out of the throat plate. So look at your bobbins closely and choose one that's going to be as close. If you can't get the original, get one that's going to be as close as possible to the original Class 66. It's either going to be a 2 or a 4 hole, either a 2 hole or a 4 hole, and it's going to have that little raised ridge right there on the bottom of the bobbin. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah. All right. Let me set these to the side. I don't know if we're going to go through a whole bobbin of thread today or not. We might. The other thing I'll show you real quick while we have this bobbin door open is the bobbin case itself that the bobbin sets inside of. If you can imagine, this is this is the bobbin case that came out of Sibel's machine that she got on eBay. You kind of get an idea of what the inside of the machine might have looked like if you look at this this bobbin case. A lot of rust, and that's the thing about sewing machines. You got to look at the environment that you're keeping them in, or if you're storing them, the environment that you're storing them in, because they will pick up rust very, very quickly, and that can just eat away at the machine. But when you got the bobbin case in, I'm going to put it like this. When you got the bobbin case in and you're going to be putting your bobbin in, make sure with the Slant-O-Matic series that you have the thread on the bottom. So when I'm getting ready to put this in, the thread is going to be coming underneath the bottom. You're going to drop it in. And then right here, you have the beginning of the tension control center. You're going to be taking the thread and you're going to be drawing it through the tension area. I'm going to try to draw it through there. Oh, I've got it turned around. That's what it is. It's always difficult when you're doing things on camera. There we go. So you're going to be drawing it through that opening right there and then drawing this to the rear, drawing it all the way to the rear so that it's taken through and it's underneath this tension spring right here. And that tension spring is also going to be adjustable. So the screw on the right is going to be a set screw. Let me see if I can get closer. The screw on the right is the set screw. Come on, camera. Camera's having a little focus issues today. The screw on the right is the set screw. The screw on the left is going to be the adjustment screw. So the silver one, I'll kind of point at it with my finger. The silver one on the left, you're able to take a small screwdriver like this, and you're able to make adjustments to it. If you turn it to the left, you're going to reduce the bobbin pull, which is going to reduce how pronounced that top stitch is. Remember, your bobbin case is going to control the top stitch. Your upper tension is going to control the lock stitch. So if you reduce this, you're going to get a more pronounced lock stitch because it's going to take power away from the pull down of the bobbin case and it's going to give it to the upper tension. If you increase this, you're going to get a more pronounced top stitch, but you're going to take away from the lock stitch. I hope that makes sense. It's a tug of war. The bobbin case is pulling down. The upper tension is pulling up. They're going back and forth at each other like this through the entire sewing process. This one's pulling down. This one's pulling up. And so when you adjust this, realize it has an impact on this. When you adjust this, it has an impact on this. So recognize that, number one, normally you can control things with the upper tension. You can make adjustments that are subtle to get the stitch output you want, but sometimes you got to jump into the bobbin case and make an adjustment on here. Make it very gradual. This is because of the environment and the design. Just a little adjustment on this has a huge impact, So if you bump it up, you're all of a sudden going to get a super pronounced top stitch. If you bump it down, you're going to take away the emphasis of that top stitch and give it to the bottom of the material, to the lock stitch. Okay? So again, Be careful in your adjustments. Be cautious and slow. And when you drop it in, again, make sure that you've got that thread. Make sure you have that thread coming underneath the bottom, like you can see in the shot right now. The thread needs to be coming. If you make a mistake and you put it in like this, okay, you have the thread over the top like this, and you drop it in and you thread it up, and you're all excited about sewing with your slant-o-matic machine. You draw it all the way back like Scott showed you. You draw it all the way back and you pull it in, and it's underneath the tension spring, and you fire that machine up. Two things are going to happen. Number one, the spool on top of your machine is going to spin crazy because the thread is pulling it the wrong direction because of your bobbin alignment. So if you've ever had that happen where you fire up a sewing machine and you've got a felt underneath your thread spool, you've got a felt underneath your thread spool, but every time you give the machine the gas, that spool just spins and the thread gets tangled underneath it and it goes on top of it and it almost jumps off the machine. It does all kinds of weird stuff. That's generally going to be a result of you threading the bobbin case wrong because it's not spinning the way it's supposed to be spinning, and the thread is being fed the opposite way it's supposed to be fed. So on the slant-o-matics, when you're looking down at it like we are right now, when you pull that thread, this bobbin should be turning clockwise. Right now, we've got it threaded correctly, right? Right now, we've got it threaded correctly. It's turning correctly. But sometimes, actually, I've got it upside down. You can tell I'm not fully awake yet. Look at that. It's the other way. No, it's the other way. But the result is this. When you've got the machine threaded properly, the bobbin should be turning clockwise. Okay? I'm going to totally confuse you. I better put this to the side. But yeah, just make sure you thread it up correctly and set yourself up for success. Make sure you've got the right bobbin, that you've got a bobbin that's going to be as true and close to the original as possible. Oh, I was going to show you one other thing. One other thing real quick. About every 8 hours of sewing, because that bobbin case is resting on top of the hook system, the hook assembly is actually underneath this. You'll want to take something similar to this and you'll put a little drop of oil right on the edge, because as the machine is turning, if you can see that, the bobbin case is stationary. The bobbin case is stationary, but the hook system is spinning ferociously underneath it. So we want to keep that marriage. We want to keep that marriage between the bobbin case and the hook system as smooth as possible. So you put a little touch of oil right on the edge between where the bobbin case is resting and where the hook system is spinning. And that way that oil will be distributed equally and will allow that to turn freely. And I think I just got a text message from Susie about something. Let's see what it is. All right, I'm trying to stop the music now. So Susie wanted me to know, where is this playing from? There we go. Susie is wanting me to know that Sibel from Brooklyn, New York is in the live chat. I actually knew that. I saw that she had typed something, but thank you for letting me know. And the question also came up on another sewing machine, a 402G, I think it was, that, is that a cheaper version of the 401A? I hate to use the word cheap when you're talking about machines. Realize that the G indicates, and I've got to look it up because I don't remember all the manufacturing codes. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. I've got it written down somewhere, but I don't remember exactly where I've got it. Uh, Give me a second here. Singer sewing machine production plant codes. See if I can find it. I don't know if I'll be successful in finding it or not.
Singer sewing machine plant codes are usually a single letter in the serial number, like A for Anderson, or...
Let me see if we can find this. I want to say that G might be Poland. Certain machines were made in other countries when Singer was manufacturing their various machines. Some were made in France, some made in... Yeah, this is not what I'm looking for. This is giving me the series for the serial number, but what I'm looking for is the manufacturing series. If someone else wants to try to look it up, but the G will indicate what country that 402 would have been made in. I wouldn't say that it was cheaper. I would simply say that it was manufactured at a different production plant. So if someone wants to look up the Singer production plant letter codes, I think is what it's called. The G series will come up as one of the code locations where they manufactured a machine. I want to say it's Poland, but I'm not sure of that. So if someone wants to try to look that up for our friend that had a question, oh, it's Germany. Deutschland. Okay, that would make sense. G, Germany, right? I'm trying to remember. Maybe P is Poland, but no, Germany would not have made a cheaper machine as far as quality or cost. They simply would have manufactured it with certain different features and functions. Let me see if I can pull up a 402G right now. When you're doing a live stream, there's so many things to manage. So bear with me as I muddle through this a little bit. Singer 402G. Yeah, if I read Susie's note right, let me make sure it's a 402G that she was talking about. 402G, let's see. Yeah, 402G. So the answer is the 402G. Let me double check here. The 402G is not even close in its design to the 401A. It's going to be very different. It's going to have a little mix of, as I'm looking at the picture here, it's going to have a little mix of the 404 and the 403A. Let me show you what a 402G looks like. I wish that the audience on the YouTube channel could post pictures. I don't know why YouTube doesn't allow us to do that. You know, maybe it would have to be approved, kind of like when certain things are written, YouTube will flag it. And then myself or one of the moderators has to review it and then approve it. But I wish that YouTube would allow the audience to post pictures so that they could post a picture like this of the 402G that was made in Germany. And you could see right away that it does resemble Sibel's machine in many ways. It's got a lot of similarities. It doesn't look like it has a throat plate adjuster. I don't see any throat plate adjuster on the right front area, but a lot of the same features. Looks like it's going to be a zigzag function machine. I'm not sure if it has any cam function or not. I've never had a 402G in the workshop before, but it's probably going to be a straight zigzag sewing machine. Yeah. So it kind of looks like a mix between a 404 and a 403A, doesn't it? And I don't know when someone else wants to look it up. I don't know exactly when the 402G would have been produced, but I would guess that the 402G out of Germany may have come into production probably in the same time frame, the 1950s, probably mid to late 1950s. But if our friend that has one of these 402Gs knows, please share your knowledge. When would this machine have been produced? Mid to 1950s, a little bit later, a little bit earlier. But it's got a number of features that mimic the other machines and certainly Sibel's machine that we're looking at today. So if anyone wants to share more information on the 402G, out of Germany. And also, if you want to look up the production location codes, I've got it in the workshop here. I just don't know exactly where it's at. I've got all the different codes of where machines were made and what letter was associated with that. I'll see if I can find it and share it at a future live stream, unless someone can find a link for us and post it in the live chat, because that would be really cool. You know, whether the machine was made in France or Italy or Germany or Istanbul or wherever that machine was made, we can tell that based on the letter that's associated with the model number. Just like our friend that has the 402G that was made in Germany, the G for Germany. You can tell I haven't had enough coffee today. I haven't had any coffee. I should have just figured the G was Germany, right? It certainly isn't Georgia, although it could be Georgia. You never know, the country of Georgia. So anyway, yeah, neat share. Really cool to see that. Got a number of different levers on the front. And again, I've never had a 402G before. Never had it. Here, they're actually selling this 402G. You can see on eBay. So be careful if you buy, if you're really saying, you know what, I'd like to get a 402G, just make sure it's not a machine like Sibel got from eBay, because you just never know. But this one they're trying to sell for around $800. You see it right there in the shot. Right around $800. Yeah, that's not a 402. So yeah, who knows? Who knows what you get? It's like a box of chocolates, right, on eBay. But I appreciate our friends sharing that with us. I always say it, sometimes a teacher, always a student. I learn from all of you as much as you learn from me. I'll say that again. I learn as much from all of you as you learn from me. And a lot of you would dispute that, because I've been sharing my knowledge and teaching for almost 2 decades now, since about 2005, I think, on YouTube. And I've learned so much and I've gained so much knowledge, and I love sharing it. But you have just as much knowledge to share with all of us. That's why I love it when folks step out of the shadows and they step into the live chat and they share their knowledge about a machine that they found, or a machine that they learned about, and what they learned about that machine. It's so cool to have that happen, because it really is revolutionary for all of us, because we may have not have had the same opportunity to see that machine and to experience that machine, right? We haven't had the same opportunity. Yeah. So at any rate, super cool. All right, let me get back to Sibel's machine. We've been running now for 53 minutes, and we haven't even sewed a stitch on this machine yet, but I think we've covered some important stuff. The other thing I'll show you real quick inside of the raceway area here is there's 2 little small screws. This screw right here and that screw right there. If you want to take out the bobbin assembly, this assembly right here, you've got to unthread it now. If you want to take out this bobbin assembly and clean it, which I would strongly recommend, because you might find rust on yours too, you have to take these 2 screws out and then remove this retainer plate that holds that bobbin case so that it's stable and stationary, so the hook can spin underneath it. So you take out these 2 screws, you remove this, and then when you put it back in, just make sure that use a magnetic tray or something like that. It's easy to drop one of these screws if you decide to be ambitious. Otherwise, you can take out the bobbin and use a Q-tip swab with a little bit of rubbing alcohol, swab the inside, and then after you clean it, get another Q-tip swab, put a little bit of machine oil on there, sewing machine oil or sewing machine oil kerosene. Kerosene is going to inhibit rust, so it might be good to do a 50-50 mix between kerosene, sewing machine oil, swab the inside of there. It's going to give great lubrication, and it's also going to keep it from rusting, keep all that crud in check. So just, again, owning a machine means you've got to service that machine, and it's really up to you on how deep you decide to go into servicing that machine. Okay? All right, let me turn Sibel's machine around, and we'll see if we can get some initial sew-offs on this machine. I'll see if I can also briefly walk you through the threading of the machine as well, just so you've got that down. Matter of fact, I'll do that right now. So we're going to start on top. I'm using a dual duty XP thread. No surprise. I use that quite a bit in the sew-offs. I really like its function and its purpose and how it interacts with the different materials that we sew. And we're going to be doing a wide field of sew-offs today, from full grain leather to patent leather and Italian leather and a variety of other leathers as well. So off of here, we're going to come across the top of the machine. You can see there's a thread guide right here. We kind of snap the thread through from the front to the back. We then drop down to the upper tension. Make sure your presser foot is up when you thread your machine. Because this machine can do twin needle sewing, you're going to see there are 3 discs in the upper tension. And if you look at any of those progress shots that Susie posted the link for, there should be 3 different links that Susie posted from Facebook that I showed Sibel's machine going through the process of rebirth. You're going to see that the discs were just absolutely filthy. And so taking your upper tension apart is a little bit of a challenge, but it's going to be well worth the effort if you can do it. Maybe on one of the live streams, I just need to focus on taking one of these apart. Maybe we'll do that on Beth's machine, the 401A, and then I'll show you how to reassemble it so that you can do that properly and also calibrate it whenever you take an upper tension apart, whether it's a slant-o-matic upper tension like this or a Japanese machine. You've got to calibrate it, and that is when you put it back together, you have to decide how much pre-tension is going to be on that upper tension, and I could show you how to do that so you can set yourself up for success, and you don't have to operate with your upper tension up on 9 to get the result that you want. You can be in the mid-range around 6 or 7, like you can see I am right now, and get great results. So anyway, we go through this thread guide up here. We drop down. We go through those discs. We draw it through. We draw this take-up spring over so that thread is going to drop right into that little notch right there where you can see me pointing. Hopefully you can see that. We're then going to go behind this thread guide right here. Oh, my, that's cool. My screwdriver is magnetized, so it's like sticking to the machine. All right, I better stop that. I'll create problems. So you go behind this thread guide. You then thread the take-up arm from right to left. You got another thread guide right here. You can see that, hopefully. We're going to drop down. There's another thread guide right here. There's another thread guide right here. And then finally, you're going to thread the needle from front to back. The flat side is going to be to the rear. Now, on one of the slant-o-matic machines, there's an additional thread point right in this area right here, and it's none other than the 401A. You've got to draw that thread through that slat as well and then thread the needle. So watch for that on your slant-o-matic machines. You may have one additional thread point right here. The other thing I'll show you real quick, I'm going to set the camera down, is there's an adjuster plate right here on the side of the upper tension. You can see the screw right there. That's going to control how much swing this take-up spring has in the sewing process. Is it going to be lower and create more drag on that thread to give you a more pronounced lock stitch? Or is it going to have a quicker sweep and be set higher? There's different choices depending on the material that you're sewing, the thread you're working with, where you may have to adjust this plate and either reduce or increase the swing of this take-up spring. Right now, we're set right about in the middle of the range, but we could just as easily loosen that screw, drop this plate down, and get even more swing from that take-up spring. We're going to try this, and if we run into any issues during the live stream, we'll loosen that screw, we'll drop it down, and get a little bit more pull from that take-up spring. Also, when we reassemble this upper tension, we've got to make decisions about how much tension we want on this take-up spring. It should be about 3 to 5 ounces of down pull
when you see me pushing it up, it should be about 3 to 5 ounces of down pull. When we put the assembly back together, if we make a wrong choice, we're either going to have too little or too much. And maybe I should cover that again when we go into Beth's 401A. I'll show you how to calibrate it perfectly so you get great results, okay? All right, let me move the camera back a little bit. Kind of look down the machine. Just trying to decide if there's anything. Oh, I want to cover one other thing. Susie and I just met recently with a customer that drove about an hour and 15 minutes to come to Kentucky to bring her Kenmore sewing machine. And while we were meeting with her after I went through and I repaired the machine and I adjusted the machine, we learned something, and that is that you never take anything for granted. And Susie and I learned that this particular customer didn't realize that inside of her faceplate was a presser foot adjustment lever. And she had been trying for years, yanking her hair out, getting very frustrated, pulling and pushing the material, trying to get it to feed, not realizing that her presser foot lever was inside of the faceplate tucked away, and it was set on 0. Presser foot pressure is so critical because it's going to work directly with the feed dogs to move that material without you ever having to pull it or push the material. Because when you pull or push the material, what does it do to your needle? Does anyone know? Type in the live chat if you know. If you're a puller or a pusher of material when you're sewing, what does it do to your needle and what can be the result of that? Come on, share your knowledge. Share your knowledge right now. What is it going to do? I'll put a little bit of music on because my throat's getting dry. Ha! Let's see here, a little bit of music. And I'll drink a little bit of the tea that Susie made me this morning. Let's see what I'm going to put on here. We're getting close to the holidays, aren't we? I'm going to put on a little bit of Christmas music. Why not? Yeah, that's absolutely right. What happens if you're a material pusher or a puller is it flexes that needle. You can have a size 110, which equates to a size 18 needle in your sewing machine. But if you pull or push when you're sewing, it's going to flex that needle, and that needle is going to go out of its normal path of travel, and it's going to hit that throat plate opening. And the throat plate opening is so critical because that's where your bobbin thread feeds out of, right? And if you have a result where you end up pushing and pulling too much, I'll see if I can find the picture of this customer's throat plate as it came into the workshop. See if I can find it somewhere in here. I have a lot of pictures, See if I can find it. I know I'll find it eventually. I'll probably find it after the live stream. Hope I didn't delete those. I don't think I did. Maybe I did delete them. Well, at any rate, let's see. Where is that throat plate picture? Oh, there it is. There it is. I found it. Ha ha. So if you look at this throat plate, it tells you a story about the history of this machine. And this particular machine, again, is a Kenmore that came into the workshop. The customer drove about an hour and 15 minutes to come up here. And you can see all the battle scars on top, and there's more on the inside as well that are creating a drag for that thread as it's trying to feed out of the bobbin. And the result is it creates all kinds of havoc in the sewing process with trying to generate a decent stitch. It also creates a lot of problems as far as locking the machine up, jamming the machine up, as well as that thread gets caught on those barbed metal edges. So the beauty of presser foot pressure is it all but eliminates that. Sibel's is located right on top of here, sticking out just above the presser foot bar. And as you turn it clockwise, you're going to increase the presser foot pressure. It's going to put more pressure down, which means it's going to push more into those feed dogs and move that material more. As we're sewing lighter materials like silk and satin, we're going to turn it counterclockwise. It's going to reduce that push, and it's going to allow that material to still feed evenly, but it's not going to bunch it. It's not going to pucker it. So this is something that you have to adjust depending on what you're sewing on and depending on the material that you're using. So adjust it down if you're sewing light, adjust it up if you're sewing heavier or multiple layers. And I've got it set right around mid-range right now. I can look down and I can still see a lot of threads visible. So as we're sewing some of the heavier materials today, we may bump it up a little bit higher. But that's the reality when you're sewing. You've got to constantly be making adjustments to set yourself up for success. The other thing that sets yourself up for success as well, if you look at some of those progress shots that Susie shared the links for, you'll notice that when the machine that Sibel bought on eBay came in, the feet on the bottom that give it a cushy ride were all but disintegrated. And so I've got brand new feet on here that give it a stable surface so that the machine doesn't vibrate when you're sewing. Make sure you check your machines and see how your sewing feet are on the bottom and replace them if they're starting to break down, because it'll give you so much better sewing results if you do that. And it doesn't take much time to do it at all. Generally, it's one screw. You pull off the old one. Sometimes you have to chip it away, like I did on the machine that came off of eBay. They were just in awful shape, but it's well worth the effort. It's well worth the effort. Okay, what else? What else did I want to talk about? Oh, let's see. Maybe we should, I don't know if I have any empty Class 66 bobbins or not. I could show you how to wind a bobbin on this as well. That never hurts to know. You might need bobbins, you know. Let me see if I can get a bobbin out of here. An empty bobbin if possible. Do I have any empty bobbins? I guess I do. Oh, and this is a not good bobbin. That's an aftermarket bobbin. It's rounded on both edges and it doesn't have that little ridge to give better stability to the bobbin when it's spinning, but we'll do it nonetheless. I just won't use it. All right. So if we're going to wind a bobbin on Sibel's 404, let me just turn the machine a little bit. There's so many things to cover when you're doing one of these live streams. I want to share all this information with you. So you're going to first of all mount the bobbin on this, and this does require lubrication. You'll see a little hole right here. Periodically, if you spin it and it doesn't seem to spin well, you just put one little drop of oil in there. Make sure you don't get it on your bobbin winding tire. We'll mount that bobbin on there. I'm going to get myself a different spool of thread. Get this mounted right on here. There we go. You can see most of it now. We're going to come through this tensioner right here. This is our tensioner for bobbin winding. And you see there's an adjustment screw on here as well. And I've talked about this in other live streams. There's an adjustment screw on here so you can slide this left or you can slide it right. As you begin to wind your bobbin, when you begin to wind your bobbin, if you see that the thread is not going evenly back and forth, that it's concentrating on one side more than the other. Let's say that as you're winding, it's concentrating more on the right, then you need to loosen this screw and you need to slide this the opposite direction. If it's all the way to the right, then move it to the left. If it's all the way to the left, then move it in increments to the left. So as you're sewing, that thread will go evenly on the bobbin. An uneven bobbin will cause as many problems in the sewing process for you as anything else. So make sure that that thread is being distributed on there evenly, and make the adjustment if you need to get it so that it's being on there evenly. We're going to take it right underneath the tensioner and then bring it up to our bobbin. Some people wind it to the front. Some people wind it to the back. I go both ways. So you can decide for yourself which way you want to wind it. I go around the bobbin probably about 5-6 times, something like that. I'm going to hold my end. I'm going to rotate this up into the balance wheel. Not to overwhelm you, hopefully not, but you'll notice that this is our stopper up here too. See if I can get the camera a little bit closer and show you. This is what's going to control how full that bobbin is allowed to go. It's going to stop it and cut off the feed of this and basically stop it from winding when it gets to a full point. If you want it more full, you adjust the screw and you push this up. If you want a bobbin that is not as full, you loosen the screw and you push this down, and then it'll meet up with the bobbin and it'll kick this away from the balance wheel as it gets to that full point. I think we have it almost at a full point right now as far as the setting, so we should get a nice full bobbin when we're done. Turn it around a little bit more, get a little bit more of a shot down here so you can see the whole scene. The last thing I have to do is I have to disengage the clutch on the side by turning it towards me. Hold the balance wheel, rotate it towards you. And now we're going to see if we can wind this bobbin. And depending on how fast you wind, you may have to put your finger on top of the bobbin so that it doesn't try to hop off. I usually get my fingers pretty close so that it doesn't jump over the edge. I'm just going to stop there real quick and get real close so you can see that we've got it set well right now, and it's winding very, very evenly, and that's what we want. Well, I didn't even have to shut it off. I ran out of thread. I ran out of thread. But the end result is we've got a nicely wound bobbin, even though I'm not going to use this one. It may have some issues because it's an aftermarket. But that's the winding of the bobbin on this. And then you just tuck this away when you're done and re-engage your clutch again. All right, I'm going to throw that thread away. All right, move these extra bobbins off the side. We'll spin our machine back around. I'm going to back the machine up a little bit. Get it angled down here. And finally, after about an hour and 13 minutes, I think we're going to do our first sew-off. And I think Susie just texted me again. Let's see what it is. Okay, we have a friend from Sweden. Okay, I guess clarification on the question. Susie wrote to me, Katinbard from Sweden wants to know how to fix that faceplate. I'm not sure what faceplate are we talking about? Are we talking about on Sibel's machine? Is there something going on with the faceplate, or what faceplate are we talking about? I'll look at the live chat. Let me see. After I roll the thread, I'm going to look through some of the threads on our live chat because I think there may be some questions, other questions as well. Let me see if I can answer any of them. Let's see. Oh, okay. Okay. So not faceplate. You're talking about throat plate. Susie typed faceplate, but I think what she meant is throat plate. Is that correct? Am I correct? Yeah. How do you fix the throat plate? You've got to get a very, very fine grit sandpaper, probably around 1,000 as far as a rating. And then what you're going to do, it's a lot harder to do on a throat plate like on a 404. This is the one that came from the eBay machine. But you'll have to go on the inside either with a rat tail, a very, very tiny rat tail, and slide it in and out to get rid of the barbs on the side, and then use a high grit sandpaper, probably about 1,000 to 2,000, and work over the top to get all the scars and all the barbs off of there, so that it's absolutely smooth on the bottom, on the top, and also on the inside where that needle is going to pass through. So you go to your automotive store or go to another store like that carries automotive detailing type supplies. They got the waxes, they got all the other fancy stuff to make the cars beautiful. They're generally in that paint section. They're going to have some high grit automotive type sandpaper. I think they have some on the market now that is as high as 5,000. You don't need something quite like that, but you'll use probably 1,000 grit sandpaper, curl it into a tiny little tube almost so you can fit it through the opening. The opening on that throat plate that I showed you is much wider than this because this is only a straight stitch plate. It's not designed for a zigzag, so it's not as wide as the one I showed you. And then you'll work that sandpaper up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down until you can feel that there's no resistance. All of the metal that was damaged by the needle striking it is going to be rubbed away. And the same thing on the top and the same thing on the bottom. So get yourself some 1,000 grit sandpaper and then work it into that space and just slowly but surely work those rough spots down so they're absolutely smooth. And then you can take a little bit of beeswax, take a little bit of beeswax or take a little bit of automotive wax and wax over that surface once you've repaired that area to give it a real slick surface so that thread will pass by. Don't keep waxing it. Just put a light little bit of wax on there with your finger, rub it in, and then wipe it off so that it's got a little bit more of a slick surface on it. That way, if you somehow miss something, the thread is still going to pass by it without getting caught. So hopefully that answers the question. Again, we're talking about needle damage to the throat plate. That's where you all threw me off. You were talking about faceplate. I was thinking, what did I talk about the faceplate? I guess I talked about the faceplate as far as the presser foot lever that the customer with the Kenmore didn't realize was in there. But yeah, the throat plate is such a critical thing to maintain, and you can prevent the damage that you saw in that picture by adjusting your presser foot pressure properly so that those feed dogs can do their job. That's really what you want to do in the end. Let the feed dogs do their job. Okay. So I'm going to launch finally with a sew off. Thank goodness. Oh, and the needle I have in here is a Schmetz size 90 needle, which equates to a size 14. As most of you know, I'm a big fan of Schmetz, and I buy this value pack at a local sewing center. I buy this value pack of the size 90 14s. You get, I think, 10 of them, and it's like around $6 or $7. But these are great. Schmetz has so many specialty needles as well. If you didn't know that, some of the specialty needles they have. Let's see here. They've got leather needles, which we could certainly use with our leather sewing today, but we're not going to. Ha ha! They've got Jersey ballpoint type needles. I already showed you the universal. They got needles for jean fabrics. We're going to be sewing jean material today too, but we're going to be using a universal needle to do it. They've got stick needle embroidery needles. These are kind of cool. They've got quilting needles. And they have non-stick needles, which is supposed to be a real good needle if you got materials that tend to grab the needle. This allows it to slide through. I haven't had a great deal of success with these. If someone has used these needles and they just absolutely love them and they've had a lot of success with them, feel free to share your stories. I just haven't had a super amount of success using them. They sometimes seem to distort the stitch a little bit for me, but that may be that I'm not using them in the proper way. So yeah, I mean, you can certainly use one of the specialty needles. That's why Schmetz makes them. But at the same time, it's going to be a lot of the sewing can be handled by the universal needle, like I always demonstrate. Okay, so whenever you're launching, make sure your take-up arm is at the highest position, and it's just beginning to do the down sweep. See how it's beginning to do the down sweep? And that way you're not going to get any binding when that thread begins to feed and the machine begins to operate. See, is that distorting our picture a little bit? I think it is. I got a new LED light in here for Sibel, and I can't tell if that's making it worse. Yeah, I think I'll leave it off. I think I'll leave it off for right now. So the leather I have underneath the presser for right now is an Italian leather. It's an Italian leather. It's just a single layer. You see the nap on the back. We're going to be sewing that first, and then we'll jump into some more leather sewing before we jump into a wider field of different materials. All right, so let's launch this off, and we'll start with our first sew off. Finally, here we go. Such an utterly smooth running machine. The Slantomatics have a direct drive feature. The motor, you may have seen it in the opening shot. I showed you another motor with that eBay machine that Sibel got. The motor is vertically mounted in these Slantomatics. I'll show you the motor. The motor is vertically mounted, and you can see the gears on here are going to interlace with gears on the balance wheel. So it basically drives the power straight up to the balance wheel. And because it's directly locked into the balance wheel, you don't have any slippage. You never have to replace a belt. It serves as a direct drive, kind of like if you have a car that has traction control, where if you have a slippery condition, all of a sudden it takes control and it keeps the car from sliding by adjusting the torque on the wheels and the spin and everything like that. That's kind of what this does, is it drives that power directly from the motor to the balance wheel, and you get incredible drive and power to the needle to get the results that you want in the sewing process. Okay, so this is our first sew off, our little bit of Italian leather. Beautiful, beautiful stitches we go across. Trying to figure out what my camera wants today. Come on, camera. Or is it my eyes that aren't focused? Maybe I need to put something behind it. There we go. Beautiful stitching, top stitch, lock stitch. I got to pull it back a little bit because of the nap of the leather. Yeah, white on white doesn't work too well, does it? Kind of hard to see it. Can kind of see it right there. But we got a beautiful lock stitch. We've got a beautiful top stitch as well. And now I think what we're going to do is we're going to double our money. I'm going to put these back to back so we can see that lock stitch a little bit better. We're going to go 2 layers of Italian leather now. you're looking at a thickness of probably 5 to 7 ounces of leather. That's a side shot right there of what we're going to be sewing next. And I'm not giving this machine a hand start. It's the direct power of the motor. When we get into some of the full grain type leather, I might give it a little bit of a boost, but the machine really doesn't need it. I went through that tower motor from one end to the other, and it's got so much power now, it's going to blow Sibel away. So this is our next sew off, about 7 ounces of Italian leather. Let me get this underneath the presser foot. We'll get our camera adjusted again. And now we're going to do 7 ounces, or double our money as far as this Italian leather. And again, if we go to sew this next stitch line, and we notice that the stitches are a little bit stubbier, let's say that they're not as full and robust as these stitches are in this stitch line, that tells us right away that our presser foot pressure is inadequate. It's not enough. So I'm gonna hedge my bet a little bit by reaching over to the presser foot adjuster on top and turning it just a little bit clockwise to give us just a little bit more presser foot pressure. So here goes our second sew off, 2 layers of Italian leather. All right, here we go. You notice I didn't give it enough gas on the foot controller. On a lot of these Slant-O-Matics, you're going to have the button style foot controller. You got to get my big old size 11, 12 foot on top of this little button, and I didn't quite hit it right. And the result was, you saw that for just a microsecond, that needle stalled before it pierced through the Italian leather. We'll make some other observations as we do these sew-offs so you can kind of know what I'm seeing and what I look for. So this is our second stitch row right here that we just did, and that slight adjustment to the presser foot pressure seems to have done well, because we've got some equally robust stitching on here as well. And as we go to the back, we can really see that lock stitching now. And what I'm seeing by this puckering on the leather, see that little puckering right now? Our upper tension for this particular sew off is set just a little bit too high. When you see that puckering like that, that means that as that thread is being pulled up by the upper tension, it's pulling a little bit too hard, and it's causing that leather to pucker a little bit. It's also compressing our stitch a little bit. See the size of that lock stitch compared to the top stitch. You can see that that top stitch is a little bit bigger than that lock stitch. So what we would do in this case, if we were sewing this Italian leather all day long, making, wallets or making purses or bags or whatever it is that we're making, we're going to back off that upper tension. And we're also going to reevaluate our presser foot pressure as well, just to make sure that the stubbiness isn't coming because we don't have enough presser foot pressure, even though we bumped it up. So those are the things that I look for. All in all, a great sew off, top and bottom. But I would say we can make it better. Don't you agree? No matter how good the sew off is, we can always look at it critically, and we can come up ways to try to improve it even more. So, all right, let's move on to our next sew off. Clip this thread off, and we'll see what we're going to sew now. Put that Italian leather to the back. Okay, now this is the scary stuff. This is a hand tool type of leather. I don't know if you can see it from the side. If you could feel this with your own hands, it is incredibly, it's like cement. It's like cement. And just a single layer of this, if you look at it, is going to be about as thick as those 2 layers of Italian leather. Look at that from the side. And a lot of owners of Slant-O-Matics, whether it's the 301, 301A that was introduced in the early 1950s, or a 401 like this, that a 404 like this that was introduced in 1958, they're going to be reluctant to try to put their machines to the test against a sew-off like this. But these machines are incredibly well built. And this one has workshop magic. So we're going to do it. This hand tool leather is a little bit frightening, though, because it has a piercing threshold that is, I mean, it's like sewing patio blocks. It's like sewing patio blocks, incredibly difficult to get through. But I think Sibel's machine will do it. I'm going to get a drink of tea real quick, and then we're going to jump into this one. Oh, let me adjust my camera. There we go. The other reality is, if we were going to be sewing leather like this all the time, we would want to consider going to one of the specialty needles that are designed for leather that Schmetz makes. But we're going to try to trudge it through here and get this done with a universal size 90 needle. Leather like this probably requires at least a size 110. So we're undersized in the needle right now, but hopefully we still get some great results. All right, so here we go. This is a hand-tooled full grain leather type leather, incredibly hard to get through. We'll see how Sibel's machine does. All right, here we go. I slowed it down quite a bit there because I didn't want to rush the sewing process going through leather like this, but the machine was kind of mad at me. The machine was like, come on there, Stubby, let's go, buddy. Let's get this done. Now I'm going to go one step further before I show you the stitches that this laid down on this hand tool type leather. And we're going to reduce the stitch length, which makes it even more difficult for the machine because it's got to try to balance that tension in a much shorter space. So I'm going to drop it from about 6 to 7 stitches per inch down to about 10 inches per stitch. We're going to try doing the same thing on this very, very difficult to get through hand tool type leather and see if we can have success. It's making me a little bit nervous because a shorter stitch you would think is easier. It's not for the machine because it's got to do things so much more rapidly. All right, so here we go again. I'm taking a deep breath. Hopefully we get a great result. Here we go. Woo, doggy. Unbelievable. It looks like our upper tension might be a little bit light for this particular leather. And that's the thing is upper tension, you got to make so many adjustments on it, depending on if you're sewing a wider field of materials. Our top stitch looks fabulous. Let me show this to you. So this is our top stitching on this hand-tooled full grain type of leather. Take my little glasses off. Let me do it like this. Maybe this will be easier. There we go. So on your left, we've got about 6 to 7 stitches per inch going through this incredibly thick leather. On the other side, on the right, we've got probably about a 10 stitch per inch sew off. And again, we're not using a leather needle. We're not using a leather needle. We're using a universal needle, which is still amazingly getting the job done. Everything's backwards when you're in front of a camera. It's so weird. Okay. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. I'll show you from a distance here as well. And again, this is going through a leather that, I mean, this is the thick of thick. This type of leather is one of the most difficult ones to get through. Almost 7 ounces of leather. That's the thickness of a man's belt or a woman's belt. And this 404 just did it with a universal needle with no hand start, with the sheer grit and power of this this machine that has gone through a rebirth, a Frankenstein experience, from coming in as a eBay machine that was ready for the junk to a treasure that Sibel will be able to use many, many years into the future. Now here's our lock stitching. We got an equally beautiful lock stitch as well, although I would probably make some subtle tension adjustments. Let me show you as I go across. And you'll notice the smaller stitch on the bottom. On the bottom row, at certain points, the stitch kind of disappears. That's because we don't have the benefit of a needle that has that cutting edge like a leather needle does. A leather needle has like a serrated point on it that slashes through the leather to allow that thread to pass more easily. This universal needle has a it's kind of a semi sharp point. It's almost rounded a little bit. And so it doesn't cut through that material with the ferocity of a leather needle, where we would get even a better result. But this is brag-worthy. This is brag-worthy, going through leather like this with this 404 and getting a result like this. Again, with no hand start whatsoever, just the sheer grit and power of this machine. What an incredible result. Incredible result. Now we're going to pivot to something that always kind of shocks people a little bit. If any of you shop on Amazon, and Susie just shared with me last night that Amazon apparently is facing a class action lawsuit right now. Did anyone else know that? Amazon is facing a class action lawsuit, but when they ship us stuff, they always ship us stuff with this brown paper. Have you ever gotten a package from Amazon and it's got this brown paper in it? And you usually probably just probably kind of crumple it up and throw it away, or maybe you throw it in your recycle bin. Well, I've got a new purpose for that stuff now. It's not going to go in your recycle bin. It's not going to get crumpled up. You're going to fold it and actually try sewing on it, because it's a lot of fun to sew paper. And there are some people that are so skilled at it that they actually can make artistic pieces from paper as well. And any of you that ever took a tour of a paper plant or something like that, and they showed you how strong paper is, it gives you an idea of the piercing threshold for a sewing machine to try to cut through this stuff. Or in this instance, using a universal needle, it's not cutting through it, it's punching through it. So we're going to sew some of this Amazon paper. What do I have it folded as? I've got it folded like this right now: 2 layers, 4 layers, 6 layers, and 8 layers of this Amazon paper. So we're going to do this next, and I'll show you again, hopefully a great result, and how strong this straight stitch 404 is, a first edition machine that came out in 1958. Okay? All right. So y'all keep your fingers and toes crossed. We're going through 8 layers of this paper, and then we may try doubling it from there. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. All right, here we go. 8 layers of Amazon packing paper. That's fun to say. All right. And that was my shorter stitch that I started with. So now I'm going to reverse it and do a longer stitch. Yeah, beautiful result. Beautiful result. Let's do a 6 to 7 inch stitch per inch stitch off on this now. We kind of did them in, we did them backwards this time, didn't we? We did them backwards this time. That's okay. Just slide that back in. And again, when you're launching, remember to have that take-up arm all the way to the very top. So it's just beginning that down sweep. See that? Just beginning that down sweep, and you'll get much better results. So I'm adjusting my stitch length now to the longest stitch for this 404. And we're going to try stitching this Amazon packing paper one more time. Again, we've got 8 layers of it. The thickness is equivalent to probably about 10 ounces of leather, close to 10 ounces of leather. All right, here we go. Absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous results. Wow. Give that a clip. Bring that to the rear. Okay, so we just sewed paper. And that may be the first time you've seen somebody sew paper on a live stream. I'm throwing this stuff around. I'm just getting so excited. Trying to get the camera to focus in on this. There we go. Now you can see the stitching a little bit more clearly. Absolutely, as I always say, page 34 stitching. The spacing, the formation, the absolute beauty of that stitch is just evident. Going through that much paper, which is not an easy task. Next time you get an Amazon package, save your paper and try it yourself on one of your sewing machines. It really, really does put that machine to the test. You can see the thickness of that from the side. So I'm going to turn it over now. We'll look at the lock stitching. And again, it looks like our upper tension may be set a little bit high right now because it's a little bit overly pronounced, but I love seeing where that needle has punched through the paper. You can see that little taft, that little burst of paper as the needle passes through. It's kind of cool. Again, beautiful, beautiful stitching. The top stitching just is prettier to look at, though, isn't it? It's just prettier to look at when you look at it from the side and when you look at it vertically. So we just did about 8 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. I think we're going to go a little bit higher. See if we can go just a little bit higher. So this is the sew off we just did. I've got more paper here. 2, 4, 6 more layers. So any of you that are mathematicians, what is 8 plus 6? What is 8 plus 6? Is that 14 layers? 8 plus 6 is 14? I think so. So I'm going to add this to this one like that. And now we're going to attempt to go through 14 layers. 14 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. From the side, it looks like this. And the reason I'm doing this is I want you to realize the strength with the design of these vertically mounted motors, the strength of these Slant-O-Matic machines. And one of the Slant-O-Matics, if you don't know this already, one of the Slant-O-Matics actually has a larger motor than this 404. This 404 is going to come with a 0.7 amp motor. There's another machine in the Slant-O-Matic series that actually comes with a 0.9 amp motor. So 0.2 of an amp higher. Does anyone know what machine that is? It comes with a larger motor, 0.9 instead of 0.7 amps. Does anyone know what machine is that? Should I give you a clue? I'll give you a clue. The machine that has the bigger motor came out in 1956, and it was produced until 1961. It came out in 1956. It was produced until 1961. I gave those stats to you earlier in the live stream. So if you scroll back up in the live chat, if someone typed it in, you may be able to identify what machine that is. It's got the bigger motor. All right. Now, while you're contemplating that question, I'm going to do my best to sew through 14 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. And do my best to get through these 14 layers. All right, here we go. I'd love to tell you that was difficult. It wasn't. It wasn't even slightly difficult. This 404, after its rebirth, has so much power. It's crazy. So this top row is the one that we just did. Let me show that to you first. I'll leave the threads attached so we don't get confused. The other thing I love is that the more you push this to machine to higher levels through thicker materials, the more beautiful that stitch becomes, the more pronounced it becomes. And that's really the science of you give more space for that knot that's in the middle to position itself and to display that stitch. So you generally will get even a prettier stitch if I go thicker than if I go thinner. There's not as much room for that knot to position itself. So there's our top stitching, which is, oh my goodness, gravy, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I got to take my glasses off because everything's blurry. I mean, all those rows are gorgeous. But look at that top row we just did. Unbelievable. 14 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. And we've got an absolutely drop dead gorgeous stitch on top. What about the bottom? What is our lock stitch going to look like? Let's turn it over and see. Unbelievably beautiful. Wow. Let me go across here. And don't be distracted by the holes. That's the natural result of that needle punching through. But we've got an equally gorgeous lock stitch as well. Absolutely beautiful. So 14 layers of packing parchment paper. The next time you get an Amazon package, save your paper. And you can try a sew off like this on one of your machines and see what kind of results you get. See if you get stitches that are that gorgeous and that drop dead beautiful. Yeah. All right, so far we've sewn leather, we've sewn paper. What can we sew next? See what we can sew next. And while I'm contemplating that, I'm going to get another little drink of tea and see if I can put on a little bit of music to rest my voice. A little bit of Christmas music. All right, I'm going to pause the holiday Christmas music. And since we were talking earlier about that, I think it was was it a 402G? I think it was a 402G out of Germany. I will teach you something new because it's good to know. It certainly doesn't hurt to know. In Germany, if you're wishing someone a happy Christmas, you'll say Frohe Weihnachten. Try that at home right now. Come on, don't be shy. Try that at home right now. So you can say Happy Christmas or Merry Christmas in German is Frohe Weihnachten. Frohe Weihnachten. Now you know how to say Happy or Merry Christmas. If you're ever in Germany or if you meet somebody from Germany, as the holidays approach, you can greet them with that greeting and they'll be like, holy moly, how do you know that? I love learning new things, don't you? I do. And Susie is correct. It is the 401A, which is going to be the next machine I'm going to be focusing on over there on the other side of the workbench. The 401A has a 0.9 amp motor, so 0.2 of an amp stronger than Sibel's 404 from 1958. Now, does that make a difference? Well, it does after I go through that motor and tear it down and rebuild it and restore it and give it that renewed grit and power. And I've told you before, we've interviewed a Singer sewing machine repair person and also a person that sold them door to door, and a person that eventually opened one of those coveted Singer sewing stores that you've seen the vintage pictures of. And he said, I've seen you do, he used to demonstrate these machines in people's home to try to show them how strong they were. He said, the machines that you give workshop magic to do more than any of the machines that I demonstrated that were brand new coming out of the factory. So I'm incredibly proud of that, but we always make it better. So we're going to make these machines as we continue to develop new methods in the workshop of giving them greater grit and greater strength. We're going to pour that workshop magic into them and give them the ability to do even more. But you'll see this 401 that belongs to Beth eventually pop up in a live stream eventually. Okay, so what am I going to sew next? What should we do next? Let's see here. Maybe we'll do some denim. Let's see if we can sew some denim now. So what I picked as far as denim is very different than what I normally pick. These are the bottom of the cuffs on a pair of denim pants. It's like the bottom cuff area where they fold it up and then they shorten it or lengthen it if they pull the stitches out of it. So you can see the thickness of that. These 2 layers, probably the equivalent of about 8 layers of denim. About 8 layers of denim. We're going to try sewing through it with this 404. And it's a very short length, so we don't have a lot of opportunity to build up speed or momentum to mow through it. We've got to trudge through it. So we'll see if we can do this. Now, this particular presser foot on the 404 does not have a hyperextension, so whatever we can fit underneath is what we can fit underneath. So I'm going to get this into position, and we'll see if we can get through these 8 layers of denim on the bottom of these cuff areas. I'll see if I can hold them real straight. Get our take-up arm all the way up. So we're launching with all the power we can. All right, so keep your fingers crossed. 8 layers of denim on the bottom of these cuff areas. We'll see if we can stitch through it. All right, here we go. Yeah, all right. All right. Wow. Very, very nice. Very nice. Let me show these stitches to you. All right, so this is our, let me make sure. Yep, that's our top stitching. This is our top stitching, first of all. You get nice and close so you can see them, hopefully. It's going to be that white thread on the top there, not the yellowish brown thread down here. I hope you can see those because they are absolutely breathtaking top stitching. Absolutely breathtaking. See if I can show them to you this way too. It may be easier to see them this way or maybe not. No, it's actually easier to see them horizontally. You ever do a live stream, you're like, that is harder to hold that material straight. That is harder to hold that material straight. There we go. The spacing, the formation, the clarity of the stitch is, oh my goodness, gravy, gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. How do we do on the lock stitch? Let's spin it around. And as I spin it around, look at what we just sewed through. 8 layers of denim, and that's the seam edge. Any of you that ever sewn through seams before on the edge of the material, you know what you're dealing with. So here's our lock stitch. Let me spin it all the way around so you can see it like this. This is our lock stitch now. I'm eventually going to get it straight. There it is. That lock stitch is just absolutely spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Everything about it, the spacing, the formation, the clarity of the stitch. And we can always make it better. We can always make it better, but you know what? I don't know. It's pretty doggone amazing. Look at that thickness again. There again is our top stitching. Our lock stitching. And again, this is the sew off we just did, 8 layers of denim. And that's after running that Schmetz needle through some crazy leather, some hand tool type leather, and also running it through, what was it, 14 layers? 14 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. And it's still delivering stitching like this on this denim. And this isn't even a denim needle. This is a universal needle. And we're still delivering page 34 stitching to it. Unbelievable. Oh, we did Italian leather too. I'm totally forgetting. These are all the sew-offs we've done already. We've done this full grain hand tool type leather. We did the Italian leather. We did the Amazon packing parchment paper. And now we've done 8 layers of this seam edge off of a pair of denim jeans. Already, we're getting a sewing sandwich. Already. And we were only beginning. We're only beginning. All right, let's jump into some more. I'm going to get another quick little drink of tea to keep my voice going. And a little bit more Christmas music. So you're saying to me, Scott, we're still in October. We're still October, man. Why are you playing Christmas music? Well, Susie and I were out and about the other day, and I gotta celebrate something on the live stream with Susie. And some of you won't care, but I don't care that you don't care because it's a major accomplishment. There's only 40,000 level 8 guides in the world. About 40,000 level 8 guides in the world. They're the ones that go out to restaurants, they go out to department stores, they go to all the different retailers, and they see what their experience is, and then they write a review. And Susie just made level 8 on the Google Guide list. She's one of 40,000 people in the world now that have reached that milestone, which is super cool. And we were out and about, and we were in a place, and she was taking picture after picture of all the Christmas decorations at this particular store. I think it was Lowe's, wasn't it, Susie? She took like about 50 or 60 pictures of all the Christmas animated figures doing their thing and all that. And we all of a sudden dawned on us, hey, wait a second, this is only October, and they're already full-blown Christmas. We haven't even hit Thanksgiving yet, and they're full-blown Christmas. So I don't think I'm playing music too early. I don't think so. Yeah. All right. Let's sew some canvas now. This is from a shelter half that I got from a U.S. Army surplus store. And we've got 2 layers that we're starting with right now. Let's see if I can go maybe a little bit higher than that, maybe up to 4 or 6 layers of canvas with Sibel's 1958 Singer 404. See if we can go up to about, why don't we do this? Why don't we fold it like this? We'll get ourselves up to 4, and we'll see if we have to make any major adjustments, and then we'll maybe fold it over and try to do 6. And sometimes we try to do too much because of the needle we're using or the thread we're using. It's just too much for the sewing machine to have success. So if that's the case, we'll adjust. But I think Sibel's machine is a go-getter, just like New York people. Sibel is from Brooklyn, New York, or I'll say it like a Brooklyn person. She's from Brooklyn, New York. And Brooklyn, New York people in general are go-getters. So I think this 404 will do fine. We're going to try 4 layers, and then we'll probably try to do 6 layers of canvas. All right, another quick drink of tea. Keep my voice going. I'm not going to change the presser foot pressure at all. And we'll see if we get some good results. All right, 4 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. All right, here we go. I got to get my foot all the way on that little button. I keep kind of stalling the machine out as I'm launching because I'm not pushing down all the way with that little button. I love these little Bakelite foot controllers, but when you got big old bozo feet like I do, it's a little bit of a challenge. So there's our 4 layers. Very nice. Very, very nice. Let me show those to you. 4 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. I'm trying to decide what side to go to. Let's go on that side. Come on, Mr. Camera. There you go. Thank you. Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Stitching. Unbelievable stitching through 4 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. That top stitch is drop dead gorgeous. Drop dead gorgeous. And 4 layers is not an easy sew off. That's what it looks like from the side. You can see that. 4 layers of canvas. So we're going to spin it over now. Look at the lock stitch. Here's our lock stitching on the back. Some really good looking stitching. I might bump up the upper tension a little bit on a sew off like this if we were going to be sewing canvas all day long because of the weave. It's almost a Kevlar weave on this material. It might need just a little bit more pull to really, really keep that lock stitch nice and straight and even. But I'd say we're 95% of the way there with our settings right now. 95% of the way, it's a drop dead gorgeous lock stitch. But if you ever get that on your lock stitching where the stitch looks like it's tilted a little bit, that's going to generally be an upper tension issue. So if you ever get a lock stitch where it's noticeably tilted, we don't have that in this instance, where it's noticeably tilted, bump up your upper tension a little bit and it'll straighten it out. Okay? So gorgeous top stitching, gorgeous lock stitching. And now we're going to bump it up to 6 layers and see how we do. Okay? 6 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. We've already done 4. We'll see if we can pull off 6 now. Turn my light back on. Oh, that light does mess things up, doesn't it? It's great to sew with an LED light, but when you're trying to do camera work with an LED light, it's awful. It's awful. I'm going to leave it off. Yeah. There's on, off. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to take these 4 layers that we just stitched. I'm going to fold it over and add 2 more layers to the mix. 2 more layers to the mix. Maybe I'm pushing too far. I don't know. We'll find out. So now we've got 6 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas that we're going to be trying to stitch through, and we'll stitch right next to, that's our lock stitch. Actually, we're going to stitch like this, and then we can compare the lock stitching from 4 to 6 layers. But that's a lot of canvas, folks. If you've ever done canvas work, 6 layers, that's off the charts. So hopefully we can fit it underneath the presser foot. There we go. That presser foot down. I'm going to hedge my bet a little bit. I'm going to just slightly increase our upper tension, just slightly. We're at 6.5. I'm going to go just to the edge of 7. And I'm going to give our presser foot pressure on top about a 1/4 turn. Because we're up to 6 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas now. That is the thick of thick. That is some thick stuff. All right, let me make sure I'm sewing reasonably straight. There we go. All right, so 6 layers. I'm going to try to get my big old bozo foot on the button and give it a good start this time. I've been giving it kind of a sluggish start. And we'll get through these 6 layers hopefully successfully. All right, here we go. Nice. Nice. No hand start. No hand start. Oh my goodness. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, yes. So this is our top stitch through 6 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. Let me try to get the camera to work with me here. Folks, that is unbelievable. I mean, sewing through what, 14 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper, sewing through hand tooled leather, that's all impressive. There are other 404s that would never, ever, ever, ever be able to do that because they haven't been restored and they haven't gotten workshop magic. Sibel's does it like it's a walk in the park. And we just went through 6 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. That's crazy. And it went through it easily, like a little hiccup, and then it laid down stitching like this. It doesn't get much better than that. I don't know how we would improve on that, to be honest with you. I don't know how we would improve on that. Unbelievable. Now we can compare the top row. When I turn this material around, the top row is going to be the row we just did. The bottom row is going to be the one that we did previously. And like I said, when we give a machine an opportunity to sew heavy duty, we can actually improve on the stitch quality if the machine is running well, because it gives more space for that knot to position itself in the material. Look at that top row. I think it's actually better looking than the bottom row. And we just went through 2 additional layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. They're both gorgeous rows. That's a lock stitch. That's a lock stitch. I think I'm making Hank bark. Hey, Hank. Hey, buddy. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. We can always make it better. Don't get me wrong. We can always make it better, but through 6 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas, lock stitch, top stitch, and again, to show you what we sewed through. That's impressive. That's impressive. So far, our Sewing Olympics looks like this. Plus, on top of that, before coming live today, I did some final sew-offs. And I did all of these. I love Schmetz needles. And I love my work. It gets the machine to a point of greatness where it can get the job done so easily. So easily. Okay, so we've done denim, we've done leather, we've done paper, we've done canvas. I'm going to go the opposite direction now, sort of the opposite. And I think we'll sew some satin. We're going to sew a little bit of satin now. We're going to go from the heavy duty, the thick of the thick, to the delicate and dainty and light side of things. Now we've got to make a couple of adjustments to try to do that successfully. We've got to back off our presser foot pressure. Otherwise, we're going to get major bunching when we try to feed this satin through. So I've got to go on top of the machine, and I've got to give this probably a good 3 to 4 turns counterclockwise. So I'm going to give it 1, 2, 3, 4 turns counterclockwise to try to reduce that push down so we don't get the bunching and the puckering when we're sewing such a light material. So we'll try to do, I don't remember how many layers I have here, 2 layers. We'll do 2 layers, and then we'll fold it over and we'll sew it one more time with 4 layers of satin. I'm going to leave my upper tension the way it is right now. I'm not going to adjust that, just the presser foot pressure. So we'll get this into position, and I'm hoping 4 turns was enough to keep it from bunching and puckering. I'm hoping. All right, so this again is satin. We've gone from leather and paper and canvas over to satin now. And we're going to try 2 layers, and then we'll do 4. All right. I still have to get my take-up arm all the way up. See how it's all the way down right now? Get it rotated all the way up. Doesn't matter if you're sewing light or heavy. You always have to give that machine the opportunity to launch with the least amount of resistance. There we go. All right, let's try this satin now. All right, here we go. Yeah, some real good results. It's a little bit harder to see this thread on this black material, but we'll take a close look at it, and then we'll try 4 after that. Okay, so satin material. Look at that top stitching first. Yeah, that should be our top stitching. It looks like our top stitch could be a little bit better defined on this satin. So if we were going to be sewing satin all day long, if we were making satin garments, we would want to probably back off our upper tension just a little bit. Remember how we bumped it up a little bit before for that canvas? I need to adjust it down a little bit now because our top stitch is not nearly as poppy as our lock stitch. We'll see those together. So I'm going to adjust that upper tension back down to 6.5. And then we'll take a look at this stitching. All right, so our top stitching first. Come on, camera. There you go. It's still a lovely top stitch. Don't get me wrong. It's a gorgeous top stitch, but we could make it better. We can make it faster. We can make it stronger. It's like the Bionic Man or something. Yeah, very, very nice. Nice form, but we could tighten it up just a little bit. The lock stitch was a little bit of a bully in this instance, and it's my fault because I adjusted it for that canvas. So here's our lock stitching now. You'll see the difference right away, I think. You can see where the upper tension was turned up just a little bit too high once I get the material positioned. There we go. Maybe easier to see this vertically. I'm going to try it vertically too. Yeah, that's a little bit better, I think. So this again is our lock stitch that we're looking at right now, which is a gorgeous lock stitch, but it's just a little bit too dominant. Just a little bit too dominant. Very, very pretty stitching. We'll turn it over, we look at that. See that? See how the top stitch isn't quite as poppy. If you look at it, it's easier, but that's a result of our upper tension being too dominant. So we could fix that very easily. And we can fix it also by adding those extra layers. We can add those extra layers and give that knot just a little bit more positioning power. So I'm going to move this down, and we'll go from 2 to 4 layers. And we'll see if we can make that top stitch just a little bit more poppy than it was the first time. All right, get my take-up arm all the way up. So 4 layers of satin now. And we've made a subtle adjustment to that upper tension to try to give a little bit more emphasis back to that top stitch. All right, here we go. Yeah, that's better. I would have adjusted it probably even a little bit more. I didn't adjust it down quite enough, but that's definitely a more pronounced top stitch now. Yeah, let's look at them comparatively. So the top one is the one we just did. The bottom one is the one we did the first time. Top we just did, bottom one we did the first time. And we'll look at them comparatively. I could have adjusted that upper tension even more, but we're heading the right direction now. See that? And that's why it's important to know the function of the upper tension and the bobbin case, because if you don't, you may adjust it the wrong direction and make it worse. It's really hard to see it on this black material. Super hard to see it. It's a little bit easier to see it from my perspective, but let's turn over and look at that lock stitch. We adjusted it differently. We turned it down a little bit, see if we took too much away. I don't think so. I don't think we took enough. Lock stitch is still pretty poppy, even with 4 layers of satin. So if you're sewing satin, you may have to make those adjustments to try to get that stitch balance the way you want it. That's just the reality when you're sewing with different materials and you're sewing with a universal needle. You have to make those adjustments to try to get the stitch output that you want. But some really good results with satin. We've gone 180 degrees opposite from the leather and the paper and the canvas and everything else. Let's see what else I have over here. Let's see. I don't know if I'm going to try that one. I had another one prepared. I don't know if I'm going to try that or not. I've already done a single layer of that. Dare I try 2 layers? I think I'll do some more sewing first before I do more leather sewing. But I will do some cowhide. This is genuine cowhide. We'll do some cowhide sewing. A lot of people love sewing with cowhide for wallet making and purses and other things like that. So it's a very common, popular material to use. We'll just jump right into 2 layers. I'm not going to bore you with doing a single layer because I think that's a little bit too easy for Sibel's machine. We'll do 2 layers. It gets us up to right around 5 to 6 ounces of leather. That's what we're going to be sewing through, these 2 layers. We'll see if we can buzz through this, and then we'll jump into some additional sew-offs before we wrap this live stream up. It looks like we've been running a little bit over 2 hours, 2 hours and 18 minutes. And Susie and I have to be somewhere by 1 o'clock. I'm just keeping an eye on the time. What time is it? About 11:15 Eastern time. So we're doing okay. All right, so genuine cowhide, 2 layers. I put them back to back. So when we look at that lock stitch, we'll be able to see that lock stitch a little bit more easily. We're going to launch into this now. Get that camera positioned right so you can see what you want to see. And I'll try to get my big old foot on that little button. All right, here we go. 2 layers of genuine cowhide. Here we go. That's not an easy sew off. That machine is working. That machine is working. Oh, and I also discovered something. We got some great stitching, but it's stubbier because remember I adjusted the presser foot pressure on top for the satin. I never adjusted it back. So I've got did I do 4 turns, I think, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to sew it one more time and we'll see what the impact is by bumping that presser foot pressure back up. We should get a little bit more robust stitch. It wasn't horrible, but it could have been better. Yeah, beautiful stitching. I'll just show it to you right away. That's our top stitching. Lovely, lovely stitching. Lock stitching. Let me turn it around like this so you can see it more easily. And again, that's the thickness that we just went through. I'm going to stitch it just one more time, and this time I have increased the presser foot pressure. We'll see what result it has, if any, on giving us a little bit more robust, a little bit more full stitch from that. Okay, here we go. And listen to this 404 work. Again, it's got a direct drive gear to gear from the top of the motor. I showed that to you earlier in the live stream. This interlaces, that interlaces with the balance wheel gears. So there's no slippage. It's direct power from this tower motor to the balance wheel, all the way down the main shaft to the needle. So it really does give you a lot more. It preserves that power, and it gives you a lot more drive down to the needle. All right, let's try this 2 layers one more time. This time we're going to see if we get a little bit longer stitch, having bumped up the presser foot pressure again. All right, here we go. Come on, Scott, get your foot on there, buddy. Yeah, it stretched it out a little bit, not hugely. The four turns that I'd given it before were not a huge impact, but it certainly helps as you go up in the thickness and the number of layers to have that extra presser foot pressure. It certainly does help. Okay, so the stitching on top is the one we just did. Stitching on top, as you can see from the threads, duh. Stitching on top is the one we just did. It's a little bit fuller. I don't know if you can see that. I can see that from my perspective. It's a little bit fuller. It's got a little bit more, it's more robust. It's more robust. You see on the bottom row, there are a couple that were a little bit stubbier. So presser foot pressure is a big deal, folks. Presser foot pressure is a big deal. Kind of go across, beautiful stitching. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. Turn it over now, and we'll look at that lock stitching. This time, the top row again is going to be the one we just did. The one on the bottom is going to be the one we did previously. Yeah, look at even at the beginning of these stitch lines. Even at the beginning of these stitch lines, you can see that the top row has greater clarity of stitch. And it's because we gave it the presser foot pressure it needed. Nothing else changed. Nothing else changed. It just had a little bit more ability to feed that material evenly. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. Very, very nice. And again, this is 2 layers of cowhide. Definitely not an easy sew off. Not an easy sew off by any stretch of the imagination, and yet we got results that were absolutely breathtaking with Sibel's 1958 Singer 404. Unbelievable results. And a lot of people love the 404 because it's a straight stitch machine. It straight stitches better probably than any of the other Slantomatics. Although when I present Beth's 401A, I'll probably say the same thing. I'll probably say, yeah, the 401A does the greatest straight stitching. You know, it's workshop magic kind of evens the scales out a little bit, doesn't it? All right. So again, to recap what we've done so far, is we just got done doing satin, got some real good results. We did 14 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper. We did, 6 layers of a U.S. Army grade canvas. That was a crazy sew off, wasn't it? Absolutely crazy. We did 6 layers, 8 layers, 8 layers of denim from the seam edge and got some great results. We did Italian leather, 2 layers of that. Gorgeous results as well. We did this genuine cowhide. Genuine cowhide. We just got done doing that. 2 layers of that. Gorgeous stitching. And then we had done this single layer of this hand tooled. I wish you could feel this leather. It's ridiculous. Super thick stuff. And we got some gorgeous stitching from Sibel's machine on this as well. So our sew-off sandwich, as I call it, our Sewing Olympics looks something like this at this stage. Plus all the stuff I did off camera before we started the live stream. So I'm just going to say to you, I think we've proven the point that this resurrected, rebirthed 404 that, basically started as a Frankenstein machine over here. You see it over there in the shot again. Pulling parts off of this, gears off of that. One of the gears that was bad, taking that one off and replacing it with another gear that got the job done much better and more evenly. I mean, it's just a happy, happy, happy machine now, getting ready to head back to New York very, very soon. All right, what's our time? Time is 2 hours, 26 minutes. And some of you watching this right now will say, I had no idea we had been watching that long. When we get together as a family, time just races away, doesn't it? We just enjoy each other's company. We share the love of these vintage machines. We celebrate a machine that was ready for the trash bin and now is ready to be treasured by Sibel out in Brooklyn, New York. It's so much to celebrate every time we get together. And so it's so much fun to be able to be able to share this time together, and the time just races away. It does for me anyway. Hopefully you. All right, a little bit more Christmas music. I'm going to get something else to drink. And I think we're going to move towards our final sew off pretty quick here. I don't like that song. I'm going to fast forward with it. Hold on a second. All right, let me pause the music. I'm tempted to try to do something that's a little bit outrageous. I guess you should be used to that by now. So I've already gone through a single layer of this hand tool type leather, which is crazy, crazy thick. You see that from the edge, and we got some beautiful results. I'm tempted to try to double it before I do our final sew off. And what that would look like is this. See if I can show that to you. I don't know. Should I try that? Is it wise to do that? We've had so much success. Will it be disappointing if we fail at this with our tiring size 90-14 universal needle? We don't have a leather needle. We don't have a size 100 or 110 leather needle. We've got a universal needle that's done a ton of sewing already. Is workshop magic strong enough to get us through a sew off like this after all the sewing we've already done? What do you think? That's thicker than a belt. That's thicker than a thick belt. Anybody have any opinion? Any thoughts? Any thoughts at all? Come on, y'all, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Should we give this sew off a try? We're basically going double the thickness that we went before to this. All right, my wife says, H, go for it. I have no idea what H, go for it is. I think her fingers got wild. Puppies are probably tormenting her. All right, we're going to H, go for it. And then we'll do our final sew off of sewing in a circle on this genuine cowhide. This genuine cowhide is fairly thick too. We're going to buzz around this for a little bit, see if we can run out of thread. How's our thread doing, by the way? I think we're doing pretty good. All right. Well, we're going to H, go for it. I'm going to bump up our presser foot pressure a little bit higher. I'm going to increase our upper tension to about 7 from 6.5. And we're going to try to give this a go. This is beyond what I've ever seen anyone do with a vintage sewing machine, let alone a 404, unless it's on this channel. We're pushing our machines all the time to do more. All the time to do more. So we're going to see if we can get this final sew off, or the sew off prior to the final sew off. We're going to see if we can get through these 2 layers of this hand tooled leather. This is going to be real similar to the leather that Candido, let's see if I can find his wallet that he made me. Candido made me a beautiful wallet out of a similar leather. You see the coloring is even the same if you look at it side by side. Made this beautiful hand-tooled leather wallet. It's one of the most difficult leathers to get through. I mean, it truly is. And we're going to be trying to go through twice as much as we did before. So we'll see. I've had occasions where I try to push the machine too far. You might remember when we gave away that 170th anniversary Class 15 machine back in Oconto. And that lady drove up from Madison, Wisconsin. And I was demonstrating the machine. And I pushed it, not remembering that it was made in India, that it wasn't truly a vintage machine. It was a look-alike. And I ended up breaking a part in the needle bar. I had to do a repair and then resume the live stream. I'm not making that up. Go back and look. So I don't think we're going to break this 404, but this is a crazy sew off for any vintage machine. So we'll see how we do, especially with this universal needle. We don't have a leather needle. All right, let's see. I'm going to H, go for it, Susie. All right. We'll see how we do. Here we go. All right. Give a listen to this machine working. It's going to be working to try to get through this. Big time. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. Are you kidding me? What? Even with all that, without a roller foot or a walking foot, we still had some compression of that stitch. Clearly some compression of that stitch, but the clarity of the stitch, both the top stitch and the locks, you got to look at this. This is unbelievable. I would challenge anyone else with a vintage sewing machine YouTube channel to try to replicate this sew off. Good luck, buddy. Unbelievable. Using a universal needle that's already done all this sewing. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Wow. Ha, I got to ring the bell. Hold on. Jiminy crickets. Wow. Oh, let's take a look at this. Through all of this hand tooled leather. Unbelievable. Even the camera can't believe it. It's like, I can't believe that. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. Oh my goodness. Tell me you've seen that before on another channel and share the link. I would love to see it done. I think we do sewing on this channel that is absolutely off the charts, off the hook. Unbelievable. Look at that stitching. And if we added a roller foot and a leather needle, add a roller foot, a leather needle, or a walking foot. Are you kidding me? Ha ha! Oh my gosh. What? What? No. What? No way. You just saw it live on this live stream. We went through, this has to be about 10 to 12 ounces of leather. Easy. Easy. Now let's look at the lock stitch. The lock stitch is harder to produce because that needle has to sweep down through all of this leather and pull that thread back up to complete that knot. The lock stitch is always more difficult. Always more difficult. And yet we've got a lock stitch that is absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Unbelievable. Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow. Unbelievable. What? Look at what we just did. Oh, workshop magic is great. Workshop magic is great. Unbelievable. All right. We're going to do our final sew off now, which may bum some of you out. It may make others of you happy, saying, oh my gosh, we've been going 2 hours and 37 minutes. Aren't we going to get done eventually? Well, you know what? We're going to get done when I say we're done, because this is a day to celebrate a machine that has come out of the ashes and is now a phoenix. Look at what we've already done on this live stream. This is all in the live stream today. We just did a sew off that people are going to watch that later and say, no way. There's no way that he just did that with a hand tooled leather. This stuff is harder than concrete. And we just went through 2 layers of that. Before we went through 1 layer of that. Before that, we did cowhide. Before that, we did Italian leather. Before that, we did the seam, 6 layers of denim. Before that, we did 4 layers, or do I have that backwards? We did 8 layers of denim. That's right. We did 8 layers of denim, 6 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas, 14 layers of Amazon packing parchment paper, and then we did satin. All on this live stream. And now we're going to go around in circles with some fun music and do our final sew off. Yes, we are. But first of all, you have to bite the bullet and listen to a little bit more Christmas music while I get a drink, because I am a talker. Yeah, I am. I don't like this song. Another song. Yeah, this one. This is a good one. Ha ha! Oh yeah. I'm hearing the bells. All right, quick pause. I was going to put on like the 1812 Overture or something like that. I think instead we'll listen to the rest of this Christmas song, if that's okay with all of you. And we'll do our final sew off around and around and around and around and around. And hopefully I don't run out of thread. Hopefully. All right. God bless you all. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you to the moderating team that helps to take care of the family. Thank you so much to Sibel from the great state of New York, from Brooklyn, New York, in recognizing the scope of this project, taking basically two machines and making them into one extraordinary machine. It takes time. It takes time with all the other stuff going on as well. So thank you for the opportunity to do this. I probably will not take another project on like this anytime soon because I've got to catch up on so many other machines, but it was a great privilege. It was an honor. And if my memory serves me right, this is the second, maybe the third machine that I've done for Sibel. I think the second machine. And she's such a sweetheart, such a great lady to work with. And I hope you enjoy this last sew off to some Christmas music. Blah, 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 blah. Here we go.